Hey guys, I'm Koko, welcome to Frostpunk. Today I wanted to share with you some of my tips and tricks for the new Frostpunk game that came out just recently, last week basically. It's a very good game, I really enjoy playing it, and as always, with this kinds of guides or tips, there's gonna be spoilers ahead, so consider yourself warned, be careful. Like, I'm gonna spoil some stuff for the first two scenarios, New Hope and the Arcs, so if you don't want to be spoiled, just turn us off and don't ever watch me again or something like that. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, first things I wanted to talk about is the heat map. You're gonna be using, or you should be using it a lot. By default, the key is O, or you can just click up top as well. You should be always anticipating when the cold's gonna drop. It's gonna get much colder. You can see it up there when you have your days. You can see ahead where it's gonna be dropping, and you should always prepare for it. One thing you can do to prepare for it is go research the heaters. I would advise you do that early on, because the heaters can get you out of some nasty situations. Like, gotta remember that warmth equals health. If your people are all sick because they were working in a cold environment, they won't be able to work anymore and your whole city is gonna fall apart. So gotta be careful that you do that. Also, something I would advise that I didn't do in my first Let's Play, because I didn't know how things work exactly, is to build a medical post in the inner ring around your Jenny. Because the medical posts out there might get too cold in like -30, -40, and if you don't have heaters, you won't be able to work it, and your people who are cold gonna keep on getting colder and sicker, and that's gonna suck. The second thing I wanted to talk about are two resources that you can't make on your own. The first thing's people. People are a resource, remember that. They won't reproduce in the city, which means there's finite amount of them. You can find them using scouts, but make sure that you can take care of any additional mounts you bring home. Either if you can build the homes for them, or if you can support the amount of them that come home with your food supplies. Can you do it? Can you not? Maybe it's better to let them be out there and leave them out to their fate. I don't know. The second thing, a very important thing as well, steam cores. You will need those for, if you want to survive for a long time, you will need steam cores. Either to build automatons, which are very important. They can work out there in extreme cold, and, well, they rarely might break down in some scenarios. And you can also build with steam cores, you can also build some advanced buildings that you will eventually need. Well, most likely need. Some people are probably good enough to not need them, but, you know, most of us, not so very much. And to get all those things, you will need scouts out there. So researching a beacon early on and getting scouts out there is something that's important. I would advise you go for like 2 scout teams early on. If you go for them early on, it's worth it. If you don't go early on, it might not be. But that will also unlock the scout speed, which I think is like one of the best things, since you will be traveling quite far away later on. So maybe having a scout speed upgrade is a very good idea. On to the third thing. Now, your people, as I said, they are a resource, but they will get to be discontent quite a lot, especially if you're playing the New Hope scenario, the first one. They will get to some things, and some of that is because of the story mode, but they will get discontent. Discontent will rise quite high. I just wanted to say, don't be too afraid if it goes up. Don't be too afraid. It's not something that you need to take care of right away. You can take care of it slowly through time. And hope might also drop. Also, slowly through time. You don't need to just look at it, oh no, this discontent is high, we're gonna die. No, you can take it easy, it's fine. Also, one thing I wanted to just say here, lots of people will go with child labor early on the first one, just because it seems kind of cool, doesn't it? Employing those bad boys. Well, just wanted to say, if you choose not to, you can build child shelters, which will give you a nice permanent hope boost that you can actually use in that first scenario. Next thing, the resource depots are more important than you think. That's all I wanted to say. They're more important. There's some people out there saying, hey, if the depot is full and the scouts bring in resources, you're gonna lose those resources. No, that's not true. It's gonna overflow, but as long as it's overflown and it's full, you won't be able to produce enough. Well, not enough, but you won't be able to produce any extra at that point. So make sure you always have storage space. I think that's generally a great idea, to have enough storage space, because you never know, like, some point you have enough coal but you don't have it stockpiled too much because you never built any extra storage depots. But then the cold hits and you can't produce enough because your people can't go out there in the cold, and all of your stuff drops like right away. Bad idea. Also, just wanted to say that if your raw food storage is full, your hunters won't leave for the night. So even though it might, you know, I don't know, drop or something, they won't leave for the night. Next, the fifth one. Now, this might not be the most popular thing, but I think it's still very important. Micromanagement of buildings is pretty important. You have to turn them on and off if you need people elsewhere, or the conditions are too cold, or stockpile is full. You should be turning them off. Let's say it's too cold to work, you can't heat that place. You still need those resources, but I think since you can always get, let's say, more wood, if this is a sawmill, you can always get more wood later on, but you can't necessarily get more people later on. So what you can do is just turn it off, close it, let the people go home, be a bit better out there so they're not freezing to death, because otherwise they can all get sick and you can't really have them work if they're sick, right? So yes, close buildings, the circumstances call for it. Remember that. Micromanage your buildings, put the heaters on, put the heaters off if needed. Just always check what is going on. And number 6, let's continue. So some buildings, like churches, have features that you can or have to activate manually. So you can have some prayers. You can see that in churches, evening prayers that you can click on. They have a cooldown, and you can do that. So don't forget about it. Also, I was talking about turning on heaters early on. So what is important is don't just turn them on and forget about them, because your coal is just going to disappear, and sometimes you don't need it, right? You don't need them on. Also, before you build buildings, always check, because some buildings have a higher base heat level, right? So you can build them farther out away from the inner ring. Also, some buildings, when they work, they will produce heat. Like, I think kiln is one of those that produces heat. Also, I believe factory, when it works, produces its own heat. So you don't need to heat it as much as the other ones. Number 7, something about managing your resources. Now, if you didn't know that, if you upgrade a building, it costs less than just building a new one. So let's say you have tents and you want to build the bunkhouses. You can build a bunkhouse, I believe, for like 20 wood and 10 steel. But if you upgrade a tent to a bunkhouse, it costs only 12 wood and 10 steel. So you profit there. Do that if you don't necessarily need extra spaces, but maybe you need more heating for people, because bunkhouses will do better. Also goes for the other stuff. Now, next thing I want to notice or mention, as we're talking about resources, right? Coal thumpers. You will probably build a coal thumper, and they will get resources. You can manually pick up those resources, but you're going to need extra people for that. Or you can build a gathering post next to it. If you have the coal thumper working with 10 people, that will produce enough for 2 fully staffed gathering posts nearby to pick up all the goods that they can pick up. That will be coal, of course. Now you can also pause or get the emergency and extended shift laws. I think those are like the most important laws that you can get early on, because you might be lacking some resources, so you can turn those on for some minor discontent. Well, emergency shift, 24-hour shift, that's gonna bring a lot of discontent, but extended shifts, just a bit. And let's say you work the extended shifts in the workshops. That could do a lot of good for you, because you can get 4 more hours of work or of research, and it will pay off. You'll see. You will see. Also, just wanted to say, keep buildings close to each other. Huddle them around the heat sources. You can build them in like small huddles of buildings. Do that. Number 8, as I've been speaking of research, I want you to listen to this closely. Build more than 1 workshop. They stack up. The research stacks up, and you can build up to 4 for fully stacked up research. If you build more, I don't believe you get any more benefits, but 4, quite important. If you, of course, can spare people, and if you have enough resources to actually get all the research going at the same time. If you don't, well, just go for, let's say, 2 then, and that's still going to be quite fine. Number 9, I mentioned automatons before, but I want to mention them again. They are the supreme beings of this world. definitely. They can work, and they will work 24/7. They can work out in the very far away places, out away from your all heating zones, in the extreme cold when your people would otherwise be dying like flies. So use them where your people can't go, right? Use them and abuse them, have them working all the time. Make sure your scouts out there bring any automatons back that they can find, because they can find automatons in the Frostland. You can also build them in the factory, but they are quite costly, they're quite expensive, although with some extra research and maybe extra stuff, you can get them out cheaper. But I would advise that when you can get an automaton, go get an automaton. And number 10, you can build outposts out there. Right, you can get an outpost team and build an outpost there. Now, I've seen this only in the first scenario, New Hope. I don't know if it's in the third one, because I hadn't played that yet, or if it's in the Arcs, because I've not seen that in the Arcs yet. But in the first one, you can either build a coal mine, you can build a wood gathering place. I would say that coal mine outpost would be a priority. I would say that. And also make sure, because the game, the first one, this is spoilery, only lasts for like a month and a half, I believe. So if you don't build the outpost early, then it's not really worth building it at all. So whenever you can, around day 20, I believe, you usually get that option. Build it. Build it right away. Research it, build it. It's gonna pay off in the long run. That's gonna do it for the tips. Now, if you have any of your own, please don't hesitate to share them with the community down below. I would like to hear them from you. Please just leave a comment. Tell me all about what you think is very important in this. Now, I also have one Let's Play going right now, playing the New Hope, the first one. And in a day or two, there's coming a new Let's Play. I'm gonna be playing the Arcs scenario. And after that's finished, I'm gonna be also playing the third scenario that I have not unlocked yet. So go check those out. I'm having a lot of fun playing on this, and hopefully we can have fun together. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.